The first sign of trouble came on a quiet Tuesday morning. At NORAD's command center, Senior Operator Tom Wilson was about to finish his night shift when his coffee cup started vibrating on his desk. At first, he thought it was just fatigue playing tricks on his mind. But then the readings on his screen changed everything. "Sir," he called out to his supervisor, "you need to see this. Multiple objects entering our solar system. They're massive." Within hours, every major observatory and tracking station on Earth confirmed the same thing. A fleet of over 300 spacecraft had entered the solar system. They moved with impossible precision, their formation perfect as they passed Jupiter's orbit. The news spread like wildfire. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders called for calm. Military forces worldwide went on high alert, but humanity could only watch as the alien Armada approached. President Williams stood in the Situation Room, surrounded by generals and advisors. The large screen showed the alien fleet's steady advance. "What are our options?" he asked, his voice heavy. "Limited, sir," General Parker replied. "Our Space Force is still in its infancy. We have some orbital defenses, but nothing that could handle a force this size." The aliens made their first move exactly 7 days after being detected. Every screen, phone, and computer on Earth suddenly displayed the same message. Their language translated itself into all known human tongues. "Primitive species of Earth, your industrial activities have been monitored. Your technological level is insufficient for galactic civilization. Your military capabilities are obsolete. Surrender your world to the Galactic Concordat. You have 24 hours to comply." The UN Security Council convened an emergency session. Military commanders from every nation shared what little they knew. The alien ships were powered by some form of fusion drive. Their hulls were made of materials unknown to Earth science. Their weapons, well, no one wanted to find out about those firsthand. Humanity's first attempt at resistance came from the combined orbital defense platforms. The latest in human space warfare technology, they represented decades of work and trillions of dollars. The aliens destroyed them in under 3 minutes. These beings, one scientist reported to the Emergency Council, their technology appears to be at least 2 centuries ahead of ours. Their ships have energy shields. They use weapons we can barely understand. We're like cavemen facing a modern army. But then something strange happened. A junior analyst at the Pentagon noticed it first. The alien fleet, for all its advanced technology, seemed to concentrate entirely on space-based and surface threats. They completely ignored the oceans. That oversight would prove to be their greatest mistake. In a secure underwater facility off the coast of Norfolk, Admiral James Miller watched the satellite feeds of the alien ships. 40 years of naval experience had taught him one thing. Sometimes the oldest tricks worked best. He picked up his secure phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "Get me the Secretary of Defense," he said, his eyes fixed on the screen. "I think I know how we can fight back, and the aliens won't see it coming." The first seeds of Earth's resistance were about to be planted, deep beneath the waves where the aliens never thought to look. The Pentagon's Emergency Command Center buzzed with nervous energy as Admiral Miller walked in. Generals and admirals from various nations turned to look at him, some with skepticism, others with desperate hope. "Gentlemen," Miller began, his weathered face serious as he pointed to the map display. "While we've been looking up at the stars, we've forgotten our greatest advantage: the oceans." A Russian admiral scoffed. "The oceans, against ships that cross galaxy." Miller smiled slightly. "Yes, exactly. Tell me, has anyone seen these aliens even attempt to scan our oceans? Have they shown any interest in what lies beneath the waves?" The room fell silent. He was right. The aliens had ignored Earth's oceans completely. "We have 42 nuclear submarines currently mothballed in various ports worldwide," Miller continued. "Boats that we considered outdated just a few years ago. But here's the thing about submarine warfare. It hasn't fundamentally changed in 70 years. Stay quiet. Strike hard, disappear. He pulled up technical data on the main screen. These aliens, for all their advanced technology, have one critical weakness. They've evolved as a spacefaring race. They think in terms of space warfare. Three-dimensional, yes, but in the void. Our oceans, there's something entirely different. The U.S. Secretary of Defense leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing, James? We reactivate every nuclear submarine we have, not just the mothballed ones. Everything. The aliens are watching our surface movements, our air activity, even our satellite communications, but they're not watching what we do under the seas. Miller brought up another display, showing submarine bases worldwide. The Russians have their Typhoons. The British have their Vanguards. We have our Ohio class. Every nation with submarine capability needs to coordinate. We need to get them crewed, armed, and deployed before the aliens realize what we're doing. And what makes you think our primitive weapons will have any effect on their shields? Asked a Chinese general. Miller's eyes gleamed. Because water changes everything. Their shields might stop energy weapons and railguns in space, but have they ever dealt with a Mark 48 torpedo detonating directly against their hull under 300 feet of seawater? Physics is physics, even for advanced aliens. The room started buzzing with conversation. Miller could see the shift in their expressions, from despair to cautious hope. It's a gamble, admitted the Secretary of Defense. But right now, it's the best plan we've got. Within hours, coded messages were being sent through underwater communication cables, harder for the aliens to intercept. Retired submarine commanders were quietly contacted. Maintenance crews were mobilized. In ports across the globe, massive doors began opening on dry docks that hadn't seen use in years. At Norfolk Naval Base, Miller stood watching as workers swarmed over the U.S. Tennessee, a submarine that had been scheduled for decommissioning just months ago. Its black hull gleamed under the floodlights as fresh supplies were loaded through its hatches. Next to him, a young officer waited nervously with a clipboard. "Sir, initial crew assignments are ready, but some of these men haven't served on submarines in years." Miller kept his eyes on the submarine. "Son, they're about to remember very quickly. Because right now, those old boats and their crews are humanity's best hope for survival. Above them, alien ships patrolled Earth's skies, completely unaware of the trap being laid in the depths below." Captain David Reed stood in the control room of the U.S. Seawolf, listening to the gentle hum of machinery around him. The submarine, pulled from retirement just days ago, moved silently through the deep Pacific waters. Above them, somewhere beyond thousands of feet of ocean, alien ships prowled. "Sonar, report," Reed ordered quietly. "Nothing but whales and normal ocean traffic, sir," replied the sonar operator. "The big boys up there don't make a sound we can detect. It's like they don't exist." That was the strange thing. The alien ships, for all their advanced technology, seemed to have no impact on underwater sensors. They didn't even create wake patterns that reached the depths where the submarines lurked. Reed checked his watch. According to the mission briefing, there should be 3 other submarines in nearby sectors, 2 American, 1 British, but he couldn't know their exact positions. In this new war, even allies maintained absolute silence. "Depth, 700 feet, reported the diving officer. "We're below the thermal layer." Reed nodded. The thermal layer was their friend, helping to hide them from any surface detection. Not that the aliens seemed to be looking. His XO, Commander Mike Thompson, approached with a tablet showing their patrol zone. "Sir, we've mapped most of their orbital patterns. They're predictable, almost too predictable." "They're overconfident," Reed replied. "They think they've seen everything Earth can throw at them." He allowed himself a small smile. They haven't. The submarine continued its silent patrol. The crew, a mix of veterans pulled from retirement and young sailors, worked with increasing confidence. The old submarine might lack the newest technology, but its systems were proven, reliable, and most importantly, completely invisible to alien detection. Suddenly, the sonar operator straightened in his chair. Contact. Large vessel, surface level, directly above us. Moving slow. Reed moved to the sonar station. The signature was massive, larger than any ship ever built on Earth. An alien supply vessel, just as intelligence had predicted. Battle stations, Reed ordered quietly. The command was passed through the submarine in whispers. No klaxons, no announcements, just silent preparation. Weapons, status. Tubes 1 through 4 loaded with modified Mark 48s, sir. Nuclear payload armed but secured. Reed took a deep breath. They'd only get one shot at this. If they missed, the aliens might finally realize the threat lurking beneath the waves. Helm, take us up to firing depth. Nice and slow. The submarine crept upward through the dark waters. 500 feet, 400, 300. Target locked. Weapons reported. Solution computed. Reed looked at his XO. Thompson nodded. They both knew what this moment meant. This would be humanity's first successful strike against the alien fleet. Fire Tube 1 and 2, Reed commanded. The submarine shuddered slightly as the torpedoes launched. On the sonar, they watched as the weapons climbed toward their target. Impact in 30 seconds, weapons announced. The entire control room held their breath. Above them, completely unaware, the alien ship continued its patrol. They had no idea that humanity's primitive weapons were about to remind them of a crucial lesson. In war, it's not always about having the most advanced technology. Sometimes, it's about having the right weapon in the right place. And the depths of Earth's oceans were about to become the aliens' worst nightmare. The control room of the U.S. Seawolf remained silent as they watched the torpedo tracks on sonar. 20 seconds to impact. 15. 10. Brace for possible countermeasures, Captain Reed ordered quietly. 5 seconds. 4. 3. 2. 1. The sonar operator's eyes widened. Multiple explosions. Direct hits, sir. Through thousands of feet of water, they felt the shockwaves of the modified nuclear torpedoes detonating. The alien vessel's shields, designed to stop energy weapons in space, proved useless against the concentrated force of underwater nuclear explosions. Target is breaking up, sir. She's breaking up. Reed watched the sonar screen as the massive alien ship split apart. Debris began raining down into the ocean. Dive. Take us deep. The Seawolf angled downward sharply, seeking the safety of deeper waters as chaos erupted above. They could hear the alien ship's death through the sonar. The crack of hull plates, the rush of water into alien compartments, the strange sounds of unknown technology shorting out underwater. Message from command, sir, the communications officer reported. Multiple strikes reported worldwide. 3 alien ships confirmed destroyed in the Atlantic, 2 in the Indian Ocean. The Chinese submarines got 1 in the South China Sea. A cheer nearly broke out, but Reed silenced it with a raised hand. Maintain noise discipline. This is just the beginning. In the following hours, they received more reports through the secure underwater communications network. The alien fleet was in disarray. Their sensors, calibrated for space warfare, had failed to detect the attacks coming from below. Their shields, impenetrable to conventional weapons, had been bypassed by the simple physics of underwater nuclear detonations. Sir, Thompson said quietly, showing Reed a decoded message. The aliens are responding. They're bombing harbors worldwide. Reed nodded grimly. As expected, but they're too late. All our boats are already deployed. The submarine continued its deep patrol, conserving weapons and waiting for the next opportunity. The crew worked with renewed confidence. They'd proven that humanity's outdated technology could hurt these invaders. More messages arrived. The aliens had begun trying to detect submarines using their advanced sensors, but they were struggling with basic underwater physics, the thermal layers, the sound channels, the pressure gradients, Everything that submariners had learned to use over decades of Cold War operations was working against the aliens' space-based technology. New contact, sonar reported. 2 alien ships moving in a search pattern. They're hunting us, Thompson observed. Reed studied the tactical display. But they're doing it wrong. They're thinking in space warfare terms, wide sweeps, active sensors. They don't understand that down here, being quiet is more important than being fast. He turned to his crew. This is what we trained for. This is what submariners have always done. Stay silent, stay patient, strike when they least expect it. The Seawolf glided deeper into the darkness, joining dozens of other submarines worldwide in their silent war. Above them, the alien fleet continued to search futilely, learning too late that they had overlooked humanity's most dangerous weapons. Not the submarines themselves, but the decades of experience in underwater warfare that came with them. Experience that was about to change the course of this invasion. 2 weeks into the underwater war, the aliens finally showed signs of fear. Their once perfect formations had broken down. Their massive ships now moved erratically, trying desperately to avoid the invisible predators beneath the waves. In the deep waters of the Atlantic, the U.S. Seawolf's crew watched through sonar as 3 alien ships attempted a new tactic, dropping what appeared to be mines into the ocean. They still don't understand, Reed muttered, watching the alien devices sink. Those things make so much noise, we can detect them miles away. His XO nodded. They're used to the silence of space. They don't know that everything makes a sound underwater. The submarine warfare strategy had exceeded all expectations. 28 alien ships had been destroyed worldwide. The invaders' supply lines were in chaos. Their once mighty armada was splitting up into smaller groups, making them even more vulnerable. Message from command, the communications officer reported. The Russian Typhoon-class submarine Dmitry just took out their largest supply ship in the Arctic. The aliens are running low on fuel and materials. But the aliens weren't giving up. They had started bombing the oceans with new weapons, trying to create massive underwater shockwaves. It was dangerous, but the submarines simply went deeper, using their knowledge of ocean trenches and underwater geography to hide. New contact. The sonar operator suddenly called out. Multiple ships. They're big ones, sir, moving fast toward the east coast. Reed moved to the sonar station. The patterns were clear. This was a major alien strike force, probably heading for New York or Washington. How many ships, sonar? 12, sir. Largest group we've seen since the initial invasion. Reed studied the tactical display. His crew waited silently. They'd become experts at this deadly underwater dance over the past 2 weeks. Send word to any boats in range, Reed ordered. Let's coordinate this one. Within minutes, responses came back. 3 other submarines were nearby. 2 American, 1 British. They began planning a synchronized attack that would have made their Cold War predecessors proud. They're getting desperate, Thompson observed. Moving in such a large group, they're actually making our job easier. Reed agreed. The aliens had abandoned their earlier caution, probably hoping that strength in numbers would protect them. They didn't realize they were presenting an even bigger target. The 4 submarines moved into position, using the natural features of the ocean floor to mask their approach. The alien ships above continued forward, their sensors scanning the air and space around them, but missing the threat below. All boats report ready, communications whispered. Reed took a moment to survey his crew. They were tired. 2 weeks of continuous underwater operations had pushed them to their limits. But there was steel in their eyes. They knew what was at stake. Launch on my mark, he ordered. Remember, aim for the center of their formation. Let the shockwaves do half the work. The aliens had superior technology, advanced weapons, and command of space. But they had never learned the lessons that submarine warfare had taught humanity over generations: patience, stealth, and the deadly art of striking from the shadows. As Reed gave the firing order, He knew that this battle would teach them those lessons the hard way. The aliens finally revealed their ultimate weapon. After weeks of humiliation and losses to Earth's submarine fleet, they decided to try something drastic. They would boil the oceans. Captain Reed watched through the Seawolf's external temperature sensors as the water around them began to heat up. The alien ships had positioned themselves in a grid pattern across the globe, using some form of energy weapon to heat the seas. "Temperature rising, sir," reported the environmental officer. "Water at surface level is approaching 90 degrees Celsius." But Reed smiled slightly. He'd been expecting something like this. "Current depth. 2,000 feet, sir. Take us deeper." The aliens had made another crucial mistake. They didn't understand that heating the entire ocean was practically impossible. The deeper you went, the colder it stayed. "Message from command," the communications officer announced. "All submarines are ordered to proceed to maximum depth. The aliens are trying this tactic worldwide." The Seawolf descended into the darkness. 1,000 feet became 2,000, then 3,000. The water pressure increased enormously, but the submarine's hull, designed for exactly these conditions, held firm. "Temperature stabilizing," reported the environmental officer. "The heat's not reaching us down here." Reports came in from other submarines worldwide. The Russian boats had found sanctuary in the deep Arctic waters. The British and American submarines in the Atlantic had descended into the abyssal plains. Even now, after trying to boil the oceans themselves, the aliens still couldn't touch them. "Sir," called out the sonar operator, picking up something strange. "The alien ships, their weapons are starting to fail." Reed rushed to the sonar station. The operator was right. The energy readings from above were fluctuating wildly. "They're burning themselves out," Thompson realized. "Trying to heat the ocean is using too much power." The aliens had underestimated the sheer volume of Earth's oceans. Their weapons, powerful as they were, couldn't maintain the energy needed to heat such a massive amount of water. "Multiple alien ships showing signs of power failure," sonar reported. They're dropping out of position." Reed saw their opportunity. "Send word to all boats in range. The aliens are vulnerable. Time to strike." The submarine forces had been forced deep, but they weren't helpless. Their torpedoes, designed to function under extreme pressure, still worked perfectly. And now the alien ships above were struggling, their energy depleted from their failed attempt to boil the oceans. 4 alien ships within range, weapons reported. Solutions computed. Reed looked at his crew. They were operating in deeper water than ever before, but their training held. The submarine systems, considered obsolete by the aliens, were working perfectly. "Launch tubes 1 through 4, he ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you try to boil an ocean." The torpedoes shot out, their nuclear payloads armed. Above them, the alien ships, their energy drained and their shields weakened, never saw the attack coming. As explosions rocked the deep waters, Reed thought about the irony. The aliens' attempt to eliminate the submarine threat had only made their position worse. They'd wasted massive amounts of energy and exposed themselves to counterattack. Sometimes, he realized, the most advanced solution isn't the best one. Sometimes, the old ways work just fine. The time for the final strike had come. After the aliens' failed attempt to boil the oceans, human submarines had identified their biggest weakness, the massive command ship coordinating their entire fleet. Captain Reed stood in the Seawolf's control room, studying the tactical display. The alien command ship was a monster, 3 times larger than their regular vessels. It hung in the lower atmosphere, protected by a screen of smaller ships. "All submarines report ready," his communications officer announced quietly. This was humanity's biggest gamble yet. Every operational submarine on Earth was participating in Operation Deep Strike. They'd only get one chance at this. "Sonar, status of target?" Reed asked. "Command ship maintaining position over the mid-Atlantic ridge, sir. They think the deep trenches make it impossible for us to attack from below." Reed smiled grimly. The aliens still hadn't learned. Those same trenches would let the submarines get closer than ever before. Message from command. The radio operator reported. Admiral Miller sends final authorization. Message reads, "Give them hell." The Seawolf began moving forward, joined by submarines from a dozen nations. British, Russian, Chinese, American. Today, they were all just Earth's defenders. Multiple contacts. Sonar reported. Alien escort ships are. Wait. The operator paused. Sir, they're moving away from the command ship. Reed rushed to the sonar station. The operator was right. The alien escorts were breaking formation, spreading out in a search pattern. They're looking for us in the wrong place, Thompson said. They think we'll attack from the continental shelf. Instead, the submarines had gathered in the deepest part of the Atlantic, using underwater mountains and trenches as cover. 30 nuclear submarines, carrying specially modified torpedoes, were about to launch the biggest coordinated underwater attack in history. All boats in position, communications reported. Reed took a deep breath. Everything depended on perfect timing. If they struck together, even the alien command ship's powerful shields couldn't withstand the combined force of 30 nuclear detonations. Final depth check, he ordered. 3,000 feet, sir. Hull integrity at optimal levels. Reed looked at his crew. They'd been underwater for weeks, operating deeper than submarines were ever meant to go. But like their boat, they'd proved more durable than anyone expected. Send the signal, he commanded. All boats, execute Operation Deep Strike. Across miles of ocean floor, 30 submarines fired their torpedoes simultaneously. 60 nuclear-tipped weapons began their upward journey through the dark waters. Torpedoes running hot, straight, and normal. Weapons reported. Time to impact, 3 minutes. The control room was silent as they tracked the weapons' progress. The alien command ship, still unaware of the threat, maintained its position. 2 minutes to impact. Reed watched the sonar screen intently. The alien escorts were still searching in the wrong areas. 1 minute. The crew tensed. This was it. Either this strike would cripple the alien command structure, or impact in 30 seconds. The aliens finally detected the torpedoes. Their escorts began racing back, but they were too far away. 15 seconds. The alien command ship started to move, but it was too late. It couldn't escape in time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The ocean lit up with the force of 60 nuclear detonations, all focused on a single target. The final battle for Earth had begun. The ocean roared. 60 nuclear torpedoes detonated simultaneously, creating a column of superheated water that reached from the depths straight to the surface. The alien command ship, caught in the middle of this man-made underwater volcano, never stood a chance. Direct hits. The sonar operator shouted, breaking protocol in excitement. Multiple direct hits on target. In the Seawolf's control room, Captain Reed and his crew watched as their sensors tried to make sense of the chaos above. The massive alien command ship was breaking apart, its supposedly impenetrable shields shattered by the combined force of 30 submarines' worth of nuclear torpedoes. Message from the British submarine Vengeance. Communications reported. Their sonar shows the command ship's power core is critical. It's going to. A flash of light penetrated even the depths where they hid. The alien command ship's power core had exploded, adding its own massive energy to the destruction. All submarines dive. Reed ordered into the general command channel. Maximum depth. The Seawolf angled downward sharply, seeking safety in the depths as the shockwaves from above hammered the ocean. The submarine creaked and groaned under the strain. Hull holding, engineering reported. But that was too close. As the water settled, reports began flowing in. The alien command ship was completely destroyed. Its escort fleet was in disarray, many ships damaged by the massive explosion of their flagship's power core. Sir, communications called out, intercepts from alien transmissions. They're panicking. Reed moved to the communications station. The translated alien messages told the story. Without their command ship, the alien fleet's coordination was falling apart. Their strict hierarchy, which had seemed so impressive at the start of the invasion, was now their weakness. Multiple alien ships breaking orbit, sonar reported with growing excitement. They're running. The news kept getting better. All around the world, alien ships were retreating. Without central command, their carefully planned invasion was collapsing. Message from Admiral Miller. Communications announced. All submarines ordered to surface and engage remaining hostile ships. Let's finish this. For the first time in weeks, the Seawolf and her sister submarines around the world began rising toward the surface. They didn't need to hide anymore. Launch remaining torpedoes. Reed ordered. Target any alien ship still in range. The submarine's tubes fired again and again. Above them, the remaining alien ships, already damaged and disorganized, fell one by one to the underwater attacks they still couldn't defend against. "Sir," Thompson said quietly, "do you realize what we've done? We just won a space war with submarines." Reed nodded. "We won because they underestimated us. They thought their advanced technology made them invincible. They forgot that sometimes the old ways work best." As the Seawolf broke the surface for the first time in weeks, her crew got their first look at the sky. Where once it had been filled with alien ships, now there was only empty blue, marked by the contrails of the retreating invasion fleet. Humanity's outdated submarines, crewed by sailors using tactics developed decades ago, had done what all the world's modern weapons couldn't. They had defeated the alien Armada. The message would spread across the galaxy. Never underestimate Earth's defenders, no matter how primitive they might seem. 1 month after the alien retreat, Captain Reed stood at the podium in the United Nations General Assembly. Behind him sat Admiral Miller, along with submarine commanders from around the world. "The lessons of our victory are clear," Reed spoke into the microphones. "It wasn't superior technology that saved Earth. It was human ingenuity, determination, and our ability to use simple solutions to solve complex problems." The hall was packed with representatives from every nation. On the massive screen behind Reed, satellite images showed the last remnants of the alien fleet disappearing into deep space. "We've received our first diplomatic contact from other galactic civilizations," he continued. "They're calling it the submarine miracle. Our victory has changed how the galaxy sees Earth." Admiral Miller stepped up to the podium next. "The aliens made a critical mistake. They judged our civilization by its newest technology, overlooking the wisdom we'd gained from centuries of warfare and survival. They forgot that innovation isn't just about creating new weapons, it's about using what you have in unexpected ways." In the weeks following the invasion, Earth had begun receiving messages from other alien civilizations. Many had suffered under the Galactic Concordat's aggressive expansion. Earth's victory had inspired them to resist. "The galaxy is changing," Miller announced. "The Concordat's reputation for invincibility is shattered. Other civilizations are standing up to them, using their own primitive technologies in creative ways. Earth is no longer seen as a backward planet. We're now known as the world that proves superior technology doesn't guarantee victory." In the audience, submarine crews from different nations sat together, their old rivalries forgotten. Russian submariners chatted with American ones, British with Chinese. The underwater brotherhood had become a symbol of Earth's unity. "But our greatest victory," Reed concluded, "wasn't just defeating the aliens. It was showing the galaxy a different way of thinking. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Sometimes the oldest weapons are the most effective. And sometimes being underestimated is your greatest advantage." As the audience stood to applaud, news came in from deep space monitoring stations. The Galactic Concordat had officially recognized Earth's independence. More importantly, they had issued new protocols requiring all their ships to include underwater warfare capabilities, a confession of their mistake that brought smiles to the submariners' faces. Later that evening, Reed stood with his crew on the deck of the Seawolf, now docked in New York Harbor. The submarine's black hull bore new battle marks, each one a testament to their incredible journey. "What do you think they'll remember about us?" a young crew member asked. Reed looked up at the stars, thinking about the message they'd sent to the galaxy. "They'll remember that humanity refused to surrender, that we fought back with everything we had, even our outdated weapons. But mostly, they'll remember to never judge a civilization's strength by its technology alone." Above them, the night sky sparkled with stars, no longer a source of fear, but a reminder of humanity's triumph. Somewhere out there, the story was spreading across the galaxy. The tale of how humanity's primitive submarines had defeated the most advanced alien fleet in known space. It was a lesson the galaxy would never forget.